There is a noise that never seems to stop, a hum that lives beneath the surface of everyday life. You can hear it when you wake, in the first moments before your thoughts arrive. It pulses through the headlines, through the urgency of unanswered messages, through the crowded streets of expectation. It is not the world, it is what the world wants from you, to move faster, to do more, to compare, to climb, to chase, to consume. But in the teachings of the Buddha, there is another way. Not a retreat from the world, but a return to yourself. Because peace is not found in the absence of noise. It is found in your relationship to it. It is found when you can be in the middle of the storm and not become the storm. You were not born anxious. You were not born in fear. You were not born to run from one task to the next, measuring your worth by your productivity, your progress, or your performance. You were born breathing. You were born open. You were born whole. And somewhere along the way, the world taught you to forget that. But the Buddha did not forget. He saw the suffering woven into the fabric of everyday life, the craving, the clinging, the resistance to what is. And in his silence, in his stillness, he heard what the world had forgotten, that peace is not something you find, it's something you return to. This is the path, not a path to be followed with force, but one to be walked with awareness. And it begins with a question that only you can answer. What are you running from? The Buddha taught that anxiety, fear, restlessness, they are not random. They are symptoms of a mind that has become disconnected from presence, a mind that has forgotten how to be still. And the world feeds that forgetfulness. Every ping, every post, every pressure is a call to go further from yourself. But what if you didn't go with it? What if for a moment you paused, not to escape, but to return, to the breath, to the body, to the miracle of now? Mindfulness is not just a technique, it is a rebellion, a gentle, grounded resistance to the chaos. It is saying, I refuse to let the world hijack my peace. You can be in the middle of noise and still be quiet inside. You can feel fear and still choose compassion. You can hear the voice of doubt and still walk in clarity. Because peace is not about the world. It is about how deeply rooted you are in yourself. But to root you must slow down. And that is the first act of courage. To stop chasing. To stop measuring. To stop pretending that your worth is somewhere outside of this breath. The Buddha sat beneath a tree, not because he had the answers, but because he had the willingness to wait for them. He stopped. He breathed. He observed. And in that stillness, he saw, suffering is not created by life, but by our resistance to it. We suffer not because we feel, but because we don't know how to be with what we feel. We resist pain. We resist uncertainty. We resist being ordinary. And in that resistance, we lose peace. So we must return to the beginning, not of the world, but of ourselves. To the still point, where breath meets body, where awareness meets thought, where you stop being the storm and start becoming the sky. Because no matter how fast the world spins, your breath remains slow. No matter how loud the world shouts, your silence remains available. No matter how far you wander, the path back is always here, under your feet, in your chest, in the space between your thoughts. This is not spiritual poetry. This is a call to practice, to stop reacting and start observing, to sit with your discomfort long enough to see that it is not forever. You are not your anxiety. You are not your fear. You are the awareness that sees both and does not become them. You don't need to fix yourself to be at peace. You only need to see yourself clearly. And clarity doesn't come through striving. It comes through surrender, through letting go of the need to be anywhere other than here. The Buddha's teachings were not complicated. They were simple, because truth is simple. Be present, be kind, be awake. Not once, not perfectly, but again and again, in each breath, in each step, in each moment when the world tries to pull you out of yourself. You do not owe the world your anxiety. You do not owe it your constant availability. You do not owe it your peace. You owe yourself your presence. You owe yourself your breath. You owe yourself the sacred right to live from stillness, even when everything else is spinning. And stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of awareness. It is the deep, unshaken knowing that no matter how turbulent life becomes, you have the power to remain rooted. You are the mountain. Lets the winds blow, lets the rains fall. You remain, not unmoved but unwavering, not untouched but unshaken. And in that steadiness, you begin to see with new eyes. You begin to understand that the world doesn't get to define how peaceful you are. Only you do. The marketplace will still shout, the deadlines will still press, but inside you there can be a silence that nothing can shake. A silence that says, I am here, I am enough, I am free. And from that silence you act, not from panic but from purpose, not from fear but from wisdom, not from anxiety but from awareness. This is the gift of the Dharma, not a life without difficulty, but a heart that remains open within it. The teachings of the Buddha are not promises of comfort. They are invitations to clarity. And when you are clear, you don't need the world to be quiet. You only need to listen to your breath, to your heart, to the stillness beneath it all. Because there is a place in you that the world cannot touch. A place that does not care about numbers, names, noise, or news. It only cares that you return to truth. Return to presence. Return to the sacred ground of your own being. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are only being called back, not to fix, but to remember. To remember that you were never meant to survive life. You were meant to live it, not in fear, not in noise, but in peace. And that peace, no matter how lost it may seem, is never far. It is always one breath away. Peace does not come from the outside. It does not arrive when circumstances align. It does not wait for you to be finished, perfect, or praised. It arises the moment you choose presence over panic, stillness over stimulation, and compassion over control. And that choice is made, not once, but again and again, in the middle of your ordinary life. When your to-do list is longer than your breath, when the phone will not stop ringing, when your heart is heavy and no one notices, that is the moment. The moment to return, not to escape the noise, but to no longer be ruled by it. You don't need to reject the world to find peace. You simply need to stop abandoning yourself inside it. The Buddha spoke not just of stillness, but of right view. Right view is seeing the world clearly, without distortion. It is the wisdom of understanding things as they are, impermanent, interdependent, and ever-changing. Anxious minds want certainty, but the Dharma teaches us that the only certainty is change. So instead of fearing change, we train the mind to flow with it. We stop asking life to be predictable, and instead we prepare the heart to be adaptable. This is peace, not control over every outcome, but resilience in the face of whatever comes. And resilience begins in thought. The Buddha taught that with our thoughts, we make the world. So what kind of world are you building with yours? Every anxious spiral is a construction, layer upon layer of imagined futures, what-ifs and shoulds, unspoken fears and hidden doubts. But what if you learn to pause that construction, to step back and ask, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every fear is prophecy. Not every worry is wise. The moment you begin to see thoughts as clouds passing through the sky of awareness, you become free. You are not the cloud, you are the sky, and the sky does not cling to the storm. It allows, it watches, and it remains. This is the practice of equanimity, not coldness, but calm. Not indifference, but balance. A quiet knowing that whatever rises, you do not have to become it. You can feel without being overwhelmed. You can respond without being reactive. You can care without carrying the weight of the world. Because you are not here to fix the world, you are here to love it, starting with yourself. Self-compassion is not weakness. It is the root of inner strength. When you stop criticizing yourself for not being calm, you begin to calm down. When you stop punishing your anxiety, you begin to understand it. And when you understand it, you no longer fear it, because now you know what it's trying to protect. Anxiety is not your enemy. It is your nervous system saying something feels unsafe. But what the Buddha taught us is that true safety comes not from the outside, but from the ability to remain grounded inside, to be with the discomfort, to breathe with the tension, to soften instead of harden. That is the radical act, to bring love where fear once lived, to bring breath where panic once ruled. This is what it means to awaken, not to never feel anxious again, but to no longer let anxiety drive your life. The Eightfold Path was not given to decorate temples. It was given to liberate your mind, step by step, breath by breath, right thought, right intention, right effort. These are not rules, they are invitations. To live in alignment, to speak with care, to walk gently through the world, but firmly rooted in your own clarity. And when you fall away from that path, which you will, you do not start over. You return. That is the beauty of practice. It is never too late to come back. Back to your center. Back to the breath. Back to this moment, where peace is not an achievement, but a remembering. The world will still move fast. Let it. You do not have to match its pace. You are allowed to move slowly, to breathe deeply, to answer the chaos with quiet, because the most powerful presence is the one that doesn't need to shout. Let that be you. Not loud but steady, not hard but rooted, not busy but awake. And in that wakefulness, may you remember, you were never meant to be consumed by the noise. You were meant to hear something deeper, the sound of your own knowing, the rhythm of your own breath, the still, unwavering silence that holds it all. That silence is always here, not after the world calms down, but underneath it, and you can touch it any time. Close your eyes, inhale slowly, exhale gently, and return not as a desperate retreat, but as an act of sacred alignment. Each time you pause, each time you come back to yourself, you are not losing time. You are reclaiming your life. This world teaches you to move faster, but the Dharma teaches you to move with intention. Intention is not just about goals, it is about clarity. Why do you act? Why do you speak? Why do you chase, hold, hide, or strive? So much anxiety arises from acting without knowing why. We say yes out of fear of rejection. We stay busy because we're afraid of stillness. We seek perfection to avoid feeling inadequate. But when your actions are driven by fear, peace cannot take root. That is why the Buddha taught right intention. When your actions are anchored in wisdom and compassion, they do not drain you, they restore you. So how do you live with right intention in a world full of noise? You begin by remembering that you are not here to prove anything. Not your success, not your intelligence, not your worth. You are already enough before you do, fix, earn, or achieve anything. This truth, if you let it in, will begin to soften the tight grip of anxiety. Because what is anxiety, if not the fear that this moment is not enough, that you are not enough, But if you meet this moment fully, you begin to see there is nothing missing. The sky is still above you. The earth still holds you. Your breath still moves. Your awareness is still intact. And from that awareness you can see clearly, not just the world, but your place in it. The Buddha taught that our suffering arises not only from craving, but from misperception. When we do not see clearly, we cling. We cling to ideas of who we should be. We cling to relationships that no longer serve us. We cling to fears that are no longer relevant. But when you cultivate right view, you begin to release, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You begin to let go of old stories, of inherited beliefs, of the need to be anything other than awake. And with each letting go, a new spaciousness is born. A stillness that does not depend on circumstance. This stillness is not passivity. It is power. The power to act without anxiety, to speak without fear, to live without the pressure to constantly improve or impress. You realize that your peace does not have to wait. It does not live at the top of a mountain or at the end of your to-do list. It lives in your next breath, if you are willing to notice it. So notice the way your chest rises. Notice the weight of your body. Notice how thoughts come and go, but you remain. You, the observer. You, the witness. You, the stillness beneath the storm. This is your true nature. Not the scattered mind, not the anxious voice, but the quiet awareness that sees clearly and does not cling. And from this place of inner stillness, your purpose begins to awaken. Purpose is not something the world gives you. It is not a job title. It is not the approval of others. It is the way you choose to show up. When you live with intention and clarity, even the smallest actions become sacred. Washing the dishes becomes meditation. Walking becomes prayer. Listening becomes healing. Your life becomes the practice. And discipline becomes devotion, not to perfection, but to presence. To show up again and again, even when the mind is noisy, even when the body is tired, even when the world demands urgency. You show up anyway, slow, conscious, awake. That is your discipline. The Buddha did not reach enlightenment by escaping life. He attained it by meeting life fully, by observing the breath, by watching his thoughts, by returning again and again to the truth of this moment. This is what it means to train the mind, not to control it, but to teach it to rest, to teach it to listen, to teach it to return. And each time you return, you are building a new habit, a new home within yourself, a home not built on achievement, but on awareness, not on fear, but on stillness, not on identity, but on truth. And from that home, you can move through the world differently. You can make decisions without panic. You can work without self-betrayal. You can serve without depletion, because now you are not moving from lack, but from wholeness. And wholeness does not fear imperfection. Wholeness is wide enough to include your flaws, your doubts, your unfinished parts. Wholeness is not the absence of mess. It is the presence of love. Love that says, even this is part of the path, so let this be your path. Not a sprint toward some distant peace, but a slow, steady walk with yourself. Let your thoughts arise and pass. Let your emotions move like waves. Let your breath be your anchor. And remember, you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not late. You are simply being invited, again and again, to come home. Coming home does not mean leaving the world, it means remembering who you are within it. You do not have to escape your responsibilities to find peace. You do not have to leave your job, your family, or your life behind. Peace is not about changing your circumstances, it is about changing your relationship with them. The Buddha did not teach people to abandon their lives, he taught them how to live their lives with wisdom, how to meet the noise without absorbing it, how to hold tension without becoming hard, how to walk through chaos with a still heart. And that begins with gratitude. Not the kind that denies your suffering, but the kind that expands your awareness. Gratitude is not saying everything is perfect. It is saying, even in the imperfection, there is something sacred here. It is noticing that even when your mind is racing, your breath still carries you. That even when things fall apart, something deeper remains whole. That even in fear there is space for love. Gratitude is not forced positivity. It is the wisdom of the present moment. It is the willingness to see beauty, not because it is loud, but because it is always here waiting to be noticed. The anxious mind often says, "This isn't enough, I need more, I must become more." But the awakened heart whispers, "This is enough, I am enough. Let me honor this." And when you live with that kind of gratitude, you become resilient. Not because nothing hurts you, but because nothing breaks you. Resilience is not toughness. It is not the denial of pain. It is the ability to feel fully, to fall deeply, and to rise kindly. To fall, not with shame, but with awareness. To say, this too is part of the journey, and to stand again softer, wiser, more open. The Buddha taught impermanence, that everything changes, and within that truth is freedom. Because if everything changes, then no pain lasts forever. No fear is final. No moment defines your life. You are free to let go. Not because you must, but because you can. Let go, not as rejection, but as return. Let go of the expectations that exhaust you. Let go of the comparisons that distort your worth. Let go of the self-judgment that keeps you stuck in cycles of anxiety. What remains when you let go is not emptiness, it is space. Space to breathe, space to feel, space to live from something deeper than fear. This is what the Buddha meant by liberation, not floating away from life, but fully arriving in it. To arrive here now with nothing to prove, nothing to fix, nothing to chase. Just this moment, just this breath, just this extraordinary, ordinary life. And from this place you begin to learn not from books alone, but from life itself. Every moment becomes your teacher. The difficult conversation, the long wait, the empty room, the racing thought. They are all sutras, all invitations to deepen your awareness, to ask, what is this showing me? What am I believing right now? Is there another way to be here? This is how peace is practiced, not in perfect silence, but in compassionate attention. And that attention creates insight. Insight into how your thoughts create your reality. Insight into the habits that keep you anxious. Insight into the patterns you inherited but no longer need. You begin to see, you are not the same person who created your suffering. You are the one who is here now, aware of it, ready to respond with wisdom. This is what it means to live awake, to not just survive the day, but to live it as an offering, to turn the mundane into meditation, to walk with purpose, to listen with presence, to speak with care, to rest without guilt, and most of all to forgive. Forgiveness is the deepest form of peace. To forgive yourself for being afraid, to forgive the past for not going as planned, to forgive life for not being easier. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is remembering and still choosing softness. It is saying, even this, I will not carry any longer. Let the world continue to demand. Let it continue to spin. You do not have to match its pace. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to be conscious, to live deeply, to love fully, to let go freely. And when you do not just create peace for yourself. You become peace for others. You become the stillness in someone else's storm. You become the reminder that it is okay to slow down, that it is safe to breathe, that it is enough to be here. This is the gift of your practice, not what you get from it, but what you give through it. A calmer presence, a kinder word, a more grounded love. You do not need to become someone else to do this. You only need to remember who you already are, beneath the anxiety, beneath the noise, beneath the story. You are awareness. You are compassion. You are peace. Not someday. Now, let this moment be your return. You are not here to be perfect. You are not here to outrun your fear. You are here to remember, again and again, that peace is not the absence of difficulty. It is the presence of awareness in the middle of it all. You do not need more time. You need more presence. You do not need more validation. You need more truth. And the truth is, your life does not begin when the world calms down. It begins now in this breath, in this body, in this exact moment where your feet touch the ground. Do not wait for the noise to stop. Do not wait for the fear to disappear. Do not wait for certainty before you choose peace. Peace is not earned. Peace is remembered. It is what you are, beneath the roles, beneath the stories, beneath the endless doing. You are allowed to be still. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to let go. And in that letting go, you do not become less. You become real. The Buddha did not offer escape. He offered awakening. And awakening does not happen in a cave or a distant future. It happens here, in the heart of your life, when you choose to see clearly, to breathe instead of react, to pause instead of panic, to love instead of control. This is the revolution, quiet, steady, unshakable, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You no longer move from fear. You move from clarity. You no longer chase peace. You live it, and when the world pulls at you again, because it will, you will know the way back. Back to the breath, back to the body, back to the truth that can never be taken from you. You are already enough. You are already free. You are already home. So let this be your vow, to return, to remember, to live, not as the anxious version of yourself the world prefers, but as the awakened self the world needs. Breathe in, breathe out, and begin again.